Hey, what's up YouTube? It's your boy JY back with another video. So today we're going to be talking about hand traps. So I'm going to be talking about the hand trap I think is the best hand trap of this format and the most underrated. So Burst of Destiny has been out for about 2 or so weeks now. We've had a lot of events, and I do have to say, like, honestly, I'm so happy. Like I've been watching all the deck profiles from like all the various regionals and events. Like the past weekend, they had like a big charity event at Rocky Mountain Collectibles. And they had like a 3v3 event, and they had like a massive single player event as well. And it feels so good just to see Yu-Gi-Oh! Back on again, real life tournaments, a bunch of sweaty guys at convention centers, like grinding it out, playing cards. It makes me so happy to see, and I can't wait to like travel to more events as well. Like we have so many like old goats returning, players like Chris LeBlanc making a comeback, Tommy Rowe, who's actually even started a YouTube channel as well. And then we have Patrick Hoban even making a comeback. I was watching his feature match. He was playing Despia, and my guy like plays Super Poly to out a Drytron Herald, or not a Herald of Perfection with a Drytron deck, and he just like summoned his Despia guy, dropped Super Poly, like fusioned it away. Like I was like, it just feels so good to see all these old players returning and events back, and hopefully guys, 2022 is going to be a lit year. Like 3 YCS is already announced, Pasadena, Utrecht, and Vegas, and hopefully hopefully the Rona doesn't get in the way, and 2020 hopefully is going to be a lit year. A lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of cards. I've missed it, honestly. I've missed it so much. But yeah, enough about that. Yeah, we've seen a lot of the format's had a chance to start to develop a little bit and start to kind of form some patterns. And like the 3 big decks at the moment look like it's Phantom Knights, Birds, so the Lyrilusk Tri-Brigade deck, and the Sword Soul deck. So they seem like the 3 kind of big decks right now of the format. And then we have other sort of lingering rogue decks like Drytron. We have decks like Invoked as well, and various fusion variants. And then we have like the other sort of super rogue decks like Eldritch, which is still hanging around, Prank Kids as well. So yeah, the format's had a chance to develop, and we've seen various trends. We've seen trends of people like abandoning hand traps and just playing board breakers. For example, like Hani played a going second Sword Soul deck where he just played a bunch of board breakers and Mystic Minds. And then even like, I guess myself, like a couple weeks back, I played a deck, Phantom Knights, with no hand traps, just mainly like board breakers like Forbidden Droplets, Dark Ruler, and Tactics, just to like break boards going second. And mainly because hand traps are kind of weak. And the reason I'm actually making this video, okay, before I get into the reason I made this video, I've wasted enough of your time just rambling, I guess. But the hand trap I think is the best hand trap of the format right now, and the most underrated is Infinite Impermanence. Okay, and so you know what it's going to be. So there's no surprises there, right? And the reason I'm making this video, basically, I was on Facebook and I was on the Flundereeze Duelists Facebook page. And if you're not familiar with like Facebook groups, there's a bunch of groups for like various decks, and people just talk theory and share deck lists and ideas about each particular deck. So in the Flundereeze Duelists page, somebody was talking about how Chalice is like way better than Infinite Impermanence, and I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense in the Flundereeze deck. Like Infinite Impermanence must be way better. And a bunch of comments were agreeing with them, and they were kind of like being a bit condescending. And I was thinking, bro, like I made a comment myself saying how Impermanence is better than Chalice. And yeah, I wanted to just make a video, like just going over it and kind of like giving you an insight into like how to view a card and like its utility and what it can do, and just when you're comparing cards and choosing what to play. So in terms of Flundereeze, we'll start there. We're going to compare Chalice to Permanence, okay? So in your opening 5 cards, let's say you're going second. So to draw 3 of is 33% to see one of the 3 of in your opening 5. So I'm going second. I've drawn my 5 cards. If I have Chalice in my hand, it does nothing. If I have Infinite Impermanence in my hand, it can at least act as a hand trap and negate a monster, right? So it acts as a hand trap and is able to trade, with an effect, okay? And then if I draw Chalice as my 6th or Impermanence as my 6th card, they both do the same thing. They both can trade with a negate. They both can trade with a Savage Dragon or a Baron de Fleur. So they both can act as a board breaker, going as your 6th card, when you're going second. But then so Imperm is already like way better for the fact that 33% of the time when you open it in your first 5, it's going to do something, right, instead of doing nothing. And then if you're going first, right, and you set Infinite Impermanence and set Chalice like as a trap card, as an interactive card, you know, face down, and you pass your opponent's turn, the Chalice is just going to negate a monster. But the Impermanence has the effect to like block off the column. So it very rarely will come up, but there'll be situations where, like, you know, maybe like you have a bunch of back row, you have a Book of Moon, a punishment, and another trap, like a, you know, maybe the trap that you would search, the Flundereeze trap that lets you normal summon on your opponent's turn. I can't remember the name. I know the effects, but so many names. But yeah, I'll have it on the screen. So you have that set as well. So you've got like 4 back row, right? There's a good chance that your opponent's going to play one of their cards in that same column. A good player wouldn't, but potentially they might have to. And in that case, you may be able to get value of that Impermanence by negating that spell. And that can be game breaking. And it may only occur like once in a 10-round tournament, but that one can win you that match, which can get you from X3 to X2, sneaking into that top 32 cut. So that is why, like, in terms of playing Flundereeze, I would play Impermanence over Chalice, okay? And that's kind of what inspired me to make this video, just to share it with people and kind of call out those people in that thread. And then now just comparing it in the format in general. So the main reason Infinite Impermanence is good is because, one, it has coverage across the meta, right? So I'm just going to look at, for now, just the 3 main decks. So against Phantom Knights, you can hit Rusty Bardiche, you can hit Tour Guide, and it has really good value. And hitting the Rusty is very powerful because it gets you to a PK spell and trap and a PK engrave. It usually gets you to your Torn scale. And that, like, hitting that and preventing them from accessing their Phantom Knights can prevent them from, like, being able to make a rank 3, prevent them from extending and, like, you know, creating like a really big unbreakable board, or prevent them from getting to those fog blades that can prevent you from playing. It really, like, hinders the engine. And against Sword Soul, okay, that's the other big deck of the format. You can hit a Moye or hit a Taye, and that has pretty good value as well. It's a pretty good trade-off. And even if you don't hit those, you can just hit the Baron, the Fleur, and that's you know, it's a 1-for-1 for the negate, because after that it's just a vanilla, and it shouldn't be that hard to out if you've you know, sort of stopped the negate there. So it trades pretty well against Sword Soul. And then the other deck we have is the Bird deck. So the Bird deck is super powerful and able to play through hand traps very easily, but Impermanence can be pretty decent, mainly because they're always going to make Utopic Draco, you know, future before they commit to their big play. So they'll make that, then usually they'll summon a Tri Brigade, and they'll try to, you know, resolve their Tri Brigade to continue extending. If you imperm that Tri, or let's say they have like a weaker hand and they have to rely on starting with a Tri, that can potentially really hinder their play. So like imperming on a Tri Brigade, you know, it gets you pretty good value there. So that's why I think imperm is pretty good against the Bird deck as well. So it's got good coverage against the 3 best decks, and even against rogue decks. Like if you're playing against Floodgates, like Eldritch, for example, you can set the Impermanence in the same zone as a Floodgate, and then if you have a Golden Lord, you can just use the Impermanence on the Golden Lord. Boom, you negate that Floodgate, and you're able to play the next turn. And Eldritch is a slow deck. They're not going to be like putting you on a clock that quickly. You'll have a few turns before they get going. And also, just in general, across the format, everyone seems to be main decking Imperial Order, which I absolutely hate. I hate Imperial Order. It should be banned. But regardless, Impermanence can be an out to that. You know, if you're able to sort of survive for a turn and set your Imperm, the next turn that can help you out the Imperial Order by negating one of their monsters, and then boom, you're able to play. So obviously that you're in a losing situation, but the Imperm can help you come back in those losing situations. So it's still, yeah, it has the best coverage. So the other main thing Infinite Impermanence has going for it is that it doesn't lose to Triple Tactics talents. Now, I don't know what the metagame was like before. Like, I haven't really, you know, I'm still getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh! And, or returning to Yu-Gi-Oh! I guess. But, yeah, so I haven't really kept up with the metagame much, but recently I've just seen a huge, like surge of people playing Triple Tactics talents in their deck. And because, one, the card is insane. It has 3 effects. And is broken going first, you're able to either draw 2 or take a card out of their hand and look at their hand. When you resolve that, you're winning like most times. You know, it's absolutely insane. And going second, you're able to steal a monster and just OTK and break boards It's such a powerful card. And the problem is when you resolve a hand trap, they're going to be able to use their talents to take a card out your hand. And that's just, you're down to 3 cards. So that is game breaking. Like, you don't want to lose to that card. And Imperm allows you to not trigger a monster effect because it's a trap card and acts as a hand trap, which is the one thing it has over all the other hand traps in the format, which is a really big thing, because like talents, it's absolutely insane. Yeah, so that is the one main thing, and I think that's why a lot of people are moving away from hand traps. And then generally the other hand traps aren't as impactful. Before I move on to the other hand traps, I forgot to mention one thing. So one of the best cards in the game right now is Predaplant, Verte, Anaconda. And the reason it's so insane is because it gets you to the Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, and that gets you to Celestial, that lets you draw 2. It just, for one link 2, it just does so much. Mainly because of the cards it can summon because of Fusion Destiny. So Ash doesn't actually work on Verte. Of course you can Nibiru, but the issue is there are a lot of decks that can play around Nibiru. So let's say Sword Soul, they can make Baron de Fleur with Long Young. Then you have Phantom Knights, which can make Appaloosa, or they can also they can make Appaloosa before they combo. Or if you, like, let's say, use a Nibiru when they make like their Rusty and try to combo off, they're still usually able to extend. They can just turn the token into Link Spider and summon an extender, and then boom, they can make their own Verte and continue comboing. Because they kind of, Phantom Knights can put you in a position where you have to Nibiru them before they commit to Verte. Otherwise, you're just going to, even if you Nibiru after, you're going to be way too far behind. And then the other deck is the Birds. And Birds, as I mentioned already, Utopic Draco Future before they commit to their combo. And if you Nibiru them before they make that, they're still able to usually extend and make their board without the future. So Nibiru isn't as good, in my opinion, in the current format. The thing is, this past weekend at the Rocky Mountain Collectibles event, a lot of people were playing Nibiru, and that's because people weren't respecting Nibiru and were just playing into it. But I think if people respect it, and like after, you're sort of like 4-5-0, 6-0 later rounds in the event, top cut, people are going to play around Nibiru as much as they can. And when we say play around them, is mainly like after your turn 1. It's very easy to play around Nibiru turn 1 when you're doing your combo, but it's after turn 1 when you're trying to OTK or you're trying to grind through. That's the times where it's difficult to play around Nibiru, because you have to like deal with your opponent's threats and like try to grind your resources and make a comeback. And those are times where you have to be counting your summons, making sure you're doing things efficiently, not, summoning monsters unnecessarily, making sure you put exactly game on board. Or there are situations where maybe you could go for game, but that would overextend, and you're just going to have to control and only summon 4 times just to control the game. And like, for example, there's plays where, let's say you're playing Phantom Knights, or the Bird deck, for example, where you can just go for a Zeus to pressure your opponent, and instead of going for your like full combo. And the Zeus may force them to use their Nibiru, and then once they use Nibiru, boom, you can actually combo properly. So ways to play around it, and I feel like a lot of players, like generally who don't know how to play their decks very, very well. And even myself, I've played into Nibiru. I'll be honest, I've made misplays. I misplay like everybody else. But yeah, there are ways to play around it, and that's something when Nibiru can shine, when people play into it. But I think for the fact that people can play around it, that's why I just don't like it as much. And Ash Blossom, doesn't really do much. Like, you can't Ash Verte, as I mentioned, and it just doesn't really do much in the format overall. Not a lot of decks really like lose super hard to Ash. And then the other hand trap we have would be like Draw and Lockbird, which is very matchup specific. Only like birds are impacted by it, and I don't like it's good against them, but I don't feel like it's like going to win you the game. I don't feel like it's that kind of hand trap in this current format right now. And then the other hand traps would be like Effect Veiler, which is just inferior Infinite Impermanence. And then the other sort of hand traps like Lancia, which is matchup specific. Same with things like Gamma. Gamma has always been amazing. The only issue is right now everyone's playing Celestial and Dasher in their deck and already playing a bunch of Garnets like Sights, loads of engine requirements, and adding a driver to the mix. I don't think people are in favor of that. And a lot of the decks right now can't really utilize Gamma on their own turn. And because hand traps are falling out of favor, like people are playing less Ashes, Gamma just becomes a bit worse, because Gamma is good for the fact you can use it on your own turn to protect you from cards like Ash Blossom, Drawn on Lockbird, etc., to protect your plays, and then also use it going second aggressively to break, like to stop them from playing. And even when you're going second, you can be a board breaker. Like if someone tries to negate your spells, you can boom, activate Gamma if you have an empty board. But yeah, this format the decks don't really support the use of Gamma. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. That's most of my thoughts summed up there. Infinite Impermanence is, in my opinion, one of the best hand traps and most underrated hand traps of the format right now. And one thing I have to mention is that it's such a good hand trap, but you can't play it in Phantom Knights. And I would love to play in Phantom Knights, but the main issue is it conflicts with Shade Brigandine. So Shade Brigandine is such a good card. It's such a powerful extender. And a lot of times when you're going second, it can be that thing that can help you break through a board. It can help you be that extra material to jump into a Verte, or maybe make a rank 4 to make a redoer to out your opponent's board, or apply pressure, or be able to link up into a unicorn or an access code, for example. The issue is when you use Impermanence, it locks you out of Shade, and pretty much if you draw a Phantom Knight, if you open a Phantom Knight card, you're able to get to Shade. All the Phantom Knights access you to Shade except Stained Greaves. So not being able to use that extender because of Impermanence is just such a bad trade-off, in my opinion, that makes it not worth playing. That conflict is just too much to play. The only situations where I'd consider playing Impermanence in Phantom Knights is maybe possibly post the Brave Engine, mainly because if let's say, I don't think we're going to play Brave the same way the OCG play it. I think we're going to do it completely differently. I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't really looked deeply into it, but I just have a feeling we're not going to play like the OCG do, mainly because we're not going to use Crossout as much as they do. They have Max C, which is why they kind of have to use Crossout, whereas we don't have Max C, so we have less of a reason to use Crossout, because our hand trap, Max C is one of the best hand traps ever printed. That's why it's banned. So that's why we don't need to play Crossout as much. All the other hand traps, you can kind of play through them. So because of that, but anyways, let's say we do play it similarly to how the OCG are currently playing Brave Phantom Knights, then I'd consider using the Infinite Impermanence just as a cross-out target. But I wouldn't be able to play it as a hand trap just for that conflict with the Shade Brigandine. It's just too much. It's really, I've tried it and it's always conflicted, and I hate looking at a dead Shade in my hand. It just sucks. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you disagree with me, or if you have, any insights you want to add. I love chatting with you guys in the comments, so throw it down in the comments. And and if you want to see more from me, subscribe, join me on this journey. It'll be fun, let's see what we get up to, guys. Good luck at all your tournaments in the future. Hope this helped. Peace out. Take care.